I wonder how many of you, when you're sitting there in your classes, and you're getting the grades, you're getting very low grades, you're not working hard on anything, you're not developing yourself. I wonder how many of you can genuinely look at that and go, yeah, I'm making my parents proud. I'm making all of their sacrifices worthwhile right now with what I'm doing. And do you really think that what you're doing right now is honoring the sacrifices that your parents have made to get you to where you are right now? Do you think they would look at you and go, I'm really proud of what you're doing right now? And you could beam at them and say, I'm only doing what I'm doing right now, because this is something you can say in life. I'm only doing what I'm doing right now, Mom and Dad, because you raised me to be this person. Or do you love them too much to give them credit for the way that you are? How many of us really consider that you want to have children someday? And you really consider the decisions that you're making in your life that are going to have you in a specific position in life someday that you're going to be bringing your children into? How many of us really think of it that way? Do we just think like, nah, I just want to have fun right now? You lose that right, man. Once you decide to make people, you lose that right to live selfishly. Because once you decide to make people, you're having to live for those people because they don't have a choice. There are going to be people that you're going to bring into the world who will never have a choice, just like you were brought into the world and didn't have a choice. We just don't take that responsibility seriously enough. We don't take the responsibility of living seriously enough. We don't take the responsibility of life seriously enough. It's an incredible responsibility. And that's not a bad thing. We run from responsibility. I get that, because we've been trained for some reason in our culture to run away from responsibility. But everything that's worthwhile in your life, everything that's meaningful, and not the things I'm telling you are meaningful, the things that you can figure out for yourself that are meaningful, but everything that's meaningful in life is found on the other side of a responsibility. Do you want to raise great people someday? Do you really want people to be better? Do you really want your children to be better than you were? First off, figure out what better means. Do you mean that you want them to have more money, or do you want them to be good and virtuous people? And first figure out what that is, and then raise yourself up to be that person so that you can be a proper model for them, because great people are going to be raised only on the other side of responsibility. Somebody was asking me recently how to kind of like find motivation when you're studying something that you just have no interest in. The way that you do it is you have to find something interesting in it. In other words, you sit down and you take a class, like a geology class, let's say. Geology is the study of rocks. Now, how fascinating is the study of rocks? How many of you wake up in the morning and think, you know what, I wish I knew more about rocks? Well, here's the surprising thing. There are people out there who do wake up in the morning and they cannot wait to get to their job, which is studying rocks. They find the rocks absolutely fascinating. When I see that, I don't look at this and say, what an idiot. How could you possibly find rocks interesting? I look at that person and I think, wow, this guy's got to be a genius, because somehow he finds rocks interesting. What am I missing? Because I must be missing something. Now, at the end of talking to a person, I might discover we just have different interests, man, and maybe I'm not missing anything. But you can apply that to so many things in life, like for example, like the music that you guys listen to. You guys know it's crap, right? Just nod, say yes. Yeah. Is it crap? No, it's actually pretty interesting if you're looking at it. I mean, we oftentimes say it's crap as a way of just saying it's not what I listen to. But I listen to this stuff because I think there's got to be something there, because there's millions and millions and millions of people who listen to this music. What am I missing? How is that not interesting to me? And so I give it a shot and listen to it. And if you approach it with that kind of a perspective, guess what you find? A lot of times you do find the interesting things in it. Maybe it doesn't become your go-to. Maybe you're not going to study geology, but you can find something interesting in it because you realize that millions of people do find something interesting in it. And you can kind of just realize, I must be missing something. But that takes a lot of self-awareness, because our tendency is to just assume if it's not interesting, the thing itself is just not interesting, and people who are interested in it, there's something wrong with them. They're easily entertained, or they're stupid, or they're boring, or whatever. You know, it's like, you know, going back to the religious thing, people will say, I don't want to be religious. Why not? Because I have too much fun. You don't think religious people have fun? Yeah, but their fun's weird. You realize they think that your fun is weird too. In other words, your tastes change. You know, when you, if you get too used to your own tastes in food, you end up diabetic. And then afterwards, you stop eating all the stuff that you used to eat because you have to shift your diet and you complain about it. And all of a sudden you realize, I can actually eat this stuff and it's better for me and it tastes just fine. In other words, your tastes shift. Your tastes can shift in a lot of things, and many of you, your tastes are going to shift in clothing. Your tastes are going to shift in foods. Your tastes are going to shift in people. Your tastes are going to shift with yourself even. And so we're pushing the ways that we live on people. Why? A lot of times it's because we just really want the best for them. And with regards to like parents and children, I'm not saying that your parents are right. I'm not saying older people are right. All I'm saying is, okay, hear them out. Because they're coming at it from a perspective of looking back and saying, if I knew then what I know now. People who give you advice or people who try to pass on wisdom to you are telling you something that you already intuitively know, which is that when I'm older, I will know things that I don't know now, and hopefully those things will mean that I'm wiser in the future. And if I could just figure out what those things are and apply them to my life now, my life would end up better, however you define better. And so like when parents are trying to push you into like STEM fields, let's say, why? Because they're telling you that you know you need that you'll earn more money and that having more money will make you happier. Do you think they just imagined that? Or do you think that maybe they know something that we don't necessarily know right now, since we're not the ones paying all the bills? As soon as you become the one who's paying all the bills, you can start to lean more towards your STEM fields, maybe, and lean more away from things like philosophy that don't pay bills. When you're the one having to pay the bills, you now start to see the value in money, and you can see how it isn't so much that money makes happiness, but a lack of money makes stress. A lack of money makes difficult times. This past weekend, I was leaving somewhere, and I went out to Mr. Truck. Mr. Truck was sitting there looking kind of sad, and Mr. Truck had a flat tire. And so I jacked him up, put the spare on, and then I finally threw everything in the bed of my truck. I noticed the spare was going flat too. And I'm like, well, this sucks. So I drove him over to a gas station, filled up his tire. This is on Sunday, so I did a search to find a tire shop that was open on a Sunday. And I ended up finding one over by Division. Went over there and, got everything patched up, got another tire for it. And I was thinking, this is interesting. Like years ago, having to drop $130 on a couple of tires would have been debilitating economically or financially. And now on Sunday it was more of a, this is cool, I can get this taken care of. One, having less money, a lot of stress, man. A lot of stress. How am I going to make this work? The second one, just sitting there and I can ask you, what do I need? Oh, you need these. Do it. I'll be right here. Okay, give us a minute. That's because money doesn't buy happiness, but money does relieve stress. That's absolutely true. So how much do you have to be happy? It isn't so much that you have to have enough to be happy. It's that you have to have enough to not be stressed out. And oftentimes we just don't have the language to understand the differences between those two. So when people are telling you, money will make you happier. No, maybe not. Maybe not. But absolutely, it will relieve your stress. That's for sure. It's nice to be able to eat the foods that you want, not the foods that you have to. It's nice to be able to wear the shoes that you want, not the shoes that you have to. Maybe you can't buy the most expensive shoes that are out there that you really, 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 really want, but you'll have shoes. And that's different from having to wear the same pair of shoes, even though there are holes in the bottom, and you have to cover them up with construction paper, like I used to have to do when I was a kid. I'd get holes in the bottoms of my shoes, and I'd get construction paper to, like an insert, an insole. Sorry. It's nice to be able to see a pair of shoes now and go, ooh, I'd like a pair of shoes. That's a different level though. But And the first level is just get enough to relieve the stress of life. And so, yeah, money does matter for that, absolutely. But if you're looking for it as an avenue for happiness, maybe not. Unless the things that make you happy are the things that money represent. Status, achievement, maybe making your parents proud of you is the thing that makes you happy. And so maybe earning $1 million or having a $1 million house, but that's just like a 1-bedroom in San Diego. Having a multi-million-dollar house, maybe, and so that your parents can come to it and say, we did it, because they're looking at you and they're thinking, we did a good job. We did a good job raising you, or I did a good job raising you. And it isn't so much that they're really excited that you have a big house, it's that your successes in life are a validation of how they parented you. And so that's why they want you to be successful in these things. It's not just because they love you, which of course they do, but it's also, if you look back at, some of you can look back at the sacrifices that your parents have made. And there's a point in my life I looked at it and just thought, man, my parents have sacrificed too much and worked way too hard for me to just be mediocre. I'll tell you, why not? We're here. But I wonder how many of you, when you're sitting there in your classes, and you're getting the grades, you're getting very low grades, you're not working hard on anything, you're not developing yourself. I wonder how many of you can genuinely look at that and go, yeah, I'm making my parents proud. I'm making all of their sacrifices worthwhile right now with what I'm doing. And do you really think that what you're doing right now is honoring the sacrifices that your parents have made to get you to where you are right now? Do you think they would look at you and go, I'm really proud of what you're doing right now? And you could beam at them and say, I'm only doing what I'm doing right now, because this is something you can say in life. I'm only doing what I'm doing right now, Mom and Dad, because you raised me to be this person. Or do you love them too much to give them credit for the way that you are? If they were to see you right now, would you tell them, you did a fantastic job. It's just, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. Would you try to shield them from the shame and embarrassment of what we are? And it's not even just here, it's everywhere that's in life. I just saw a video yesterday of, it's over in, I'll think of it, it's in Chicago. In short, it was a guy who, he's getting jumped by 15 dudes. It's a high school. It's right across the street from a high school. He was standing up for somebody else because they were bullying somebody. So he said something to him. Dude, hey, leave him alone. They jumped him. He died. There's a video of it. He gets hit, he falls down. When he falls down, he hits his head on the concrete. At that point, he's unconscious. And then they start stomping his head and kicking him. 15 of them, high school students. How many of those 15 do you suppose would sit there and say, you raised me to be this person, Mom and Dad? And how many of those parents do you think would look at them and go, I did that? No, they'd probably try to shield their parents from it. I know, you didn't raise me this way, Mom and Dad. Yes, they did. Now, yeah, you have a choice about which way you're going to go after that, but you were brought to a point. And now that point that you're at right now, the question of which of the many directions, the almost infinite number of directions in life are you going to go? Do you honor their sacrifice? Do you honor what they've done for you? Or are you going to lie about it and say, well, no, I'm doing this even though you did a fantastic job, but despite that, I'm still going to go and behave the way that I'm behaving right now. It's an uncomfortable thing, I know it, because we don't think of them that way, but that's the thing about, it's one of the reasons we do these quotes. It's one of the reasons that I talk to you guys the way that I talk to you, because nothing is just anything, man. Everything means something. Everything means something. And everything means way more than we think it means. How many of us really consider that you want to have children someday? And you really consider the decisions that you're making in your life that are going to have you in a specific position in life someday that you're going to be bringing your children into? How many of us really think of it that way? Do we just think like, no, I just want to have fun right now? You lose that right, man. Once you decide to make people, you lose that right. to live selfishly. Because once you decide to make people, you're having to live for those people because they don't have a choice. There are going to be people that you're going to bring into the world who will never have a choice, just like you were brought into the world and didn't have a choice. We just don't take that responsibility seriously enough. We don't take the responsibility of living seriously enough. We don't take the responsibility of life seriously enough. You know, it's an incredible responsibility. And that's not a bad thing. We run from responsibility. I get that because we've been trained for some reason in our culture to run away from responsibility. But everything that's worthwhile in your life, everything that's meaningful, and not the things I'm telling you are meaningful, the things that you can figure out for yourself that are meaningful, but everything that's meaningful in life is found on the other side of a responsibility. You want to be a surgeon? That's going to be found on the other side of a lot of responsibility of missing parties, missing vacations, missing time with friends in lieu of studying and training and getting better and losing sleep. That's on the other side. Everything good is found on the other side of responsibility. And so if you run away from responsibility, then you're running away from everything that's good in life. And again, I don't need to tell you what those responsibilities are. You can figure them out for yourself because you can figure out what it is in life that you want. Do you want to raise great people someday? Do you really want people to be better? Do you really want your children to be better than you were? First off, figure out what better means. Do you mean that you want them to have more money, or do you want them to be good and virtuous people? And first figure out what that is, and then raise yourself up to be that person so that you can be a proper model for them, because great people are going to be raised only on the other side of responsibility. You've got 15 people jumping one kid and murdering him. Do you, without knowing anything about the case, do you imagine there was a lot of responsible parenting going on with those 15? You've got the one kid who was killed, was murdered. His father's in the military. He wanted to go into the military because he wanted to serve. That's why he was sticking up for somebody. Do you think that the world's a better place without a person who's willing to stick up for somebody else? No, but he was done. There were 15 of them. Okay, then we know what your limit is. We know that you're driven not by virtue, but by self-preservation. And by the way, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't stand up to 15 people. All I'm saying is, man, someone did. Some of us can't even stand up to our friends. This guy stood up to 15 potential enemies. And I don't know all this situation. I don't know all the details, only the very few things that have come out about it, but it's that concept that's important, you know? And so selfishness isn't living as you want to live. But I guess what I'm saying is, first now, figure out how you want to live. Because you have to know what you want. And as we know, man, the audience does not know what it wants. We don't know what we want. If you could stand somewhere, let's say, and look back on your life, let's say that 60-year-old you could give advice to 18-year-old you. What advice do you think that 60-year-old you would give you? Do you think they would tell you to do that thing that's harming your life, whatever it is? I don't mean to be preachy, but I got a text at 1:30 in the morning from somebody asking me, what are your views on alcohol and drugs? That's a strange text to get at 1:30 in the morning. It almost sounds like someone's about to make a decision. I don't think they were. Maybe. I don't know. But I guess I would ask that question. What do you think 60-year-old you would tell you? Do you think 60-year-old you would tell you, you know what would have made your life way better? More Coke. More weed. And more alcohol. That would have really improved your life. I doubt it. But, what do I know? But I don't know. I think 60-year-old you could probably gather that. But here's the problem. You don't have access to 60-year-old you. But what you do have access to is, 50-year-old parents, 70-year-old grandparents, 60-year-old uncle, I don't know. Maybe and I know that a lot of us don't have access to any of that. I get it. But you do have access to people who have lived a little bit and do have a perspective that you might just not have yet. But I also understand that one of the reasons we don't like talking to them is because they talk to us about things that we already know, we just don't want to hear. And as we know, The best thing to do with good advice is give it to other people. It's never of use to ourselves. Oscar Wilde said that one too. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Happy Tuesday.